Are we ready to go? Is everybody in place?
Bobby on?
Bobby, are you on?
Present.
Okay, Kelly, are you on?
She was a minute ago.
Yeah,
Kelly,
she
where'd you
was.
There she
Yeah,
is.
okay, I see you now.
Accidentally
George,
pressed
are you
the
on?
camera off. I tried to unmute.
go? Okay.
Whit, I don't see you. Are you on? Hello, Whit? Yeah, come check.
I think Kelly was just saying if they go to mute, it turns the camera off.
Well, but I don't hear him.
No, I
Whit, are you,
pressed
if
the
you're on
camera
mute?
Instead of muting, the camera button is right next to the mute. So that was just my mistake.
I don't hear him talking. Whit, I need you to say something to me.
Whit, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, very good. Then I think everybody's here, and I think we're ready to go. Is everybody ready to go?
How long is this?
Yes,
sir.
Last month?
Okay. Then I'm going to call the special meeting of the City Council of the City of Colleyville to order for March 26th, 2020 at 3 p.m. First thing I need to do is call the roll. Councilmember Nakamura,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood,
Here.
Councilmember Wheat,
Here.
the mayor is here, Councilmember Dodson,
Here.
Councilmember Rigney, Councilmember Kelly, I can see you.
Here.
Councilmember Rigney. Okay, thank you. We're all here. So I appreciate everyone being willing to get together for this special meeting. And I want to welcome everyone that's watching this. We do have the City Hall open for this. We have blanked off the seats so that if people do attend, they will be separated appropriately according to our social distancing criteria. That everybody's been great at observing, and we thank you for that. So the purpose of this meeting is by the way, let me first say this clearly, if you're watching us on the video, you can see that this is a hybrid meeting. As the last meeting, we have some council members here physically and other council members participating, including voting online. So Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood, Councilmember Dodson, and Councilmember Callie are all here. I can actually see Councilmember Rigney's face when I look down there at the computer. They're logged on and they are participating, and you will be able to hear them talk and hear them vote. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. This is a particularly unique time in the history of the city of Colleyville. I believe this is probably the very first time that that the mayor has ever issued a declaration of disaster. And so this is new for many people. I will just say up front, our staff and your elected officials have responded very well. Our staff and city management team and chiefs of police and fire chiefs are doing an outstanding job to ensure that they're doing everything to create all the contingency plans that are necessary to ensure this city will function under any circumstance that we may see ourselves in the future. And they have plenty of supplies to do it. For number one priority, I state every time I talk, is to keep our citizens safe, to keep our first responders safe, and I believe that's being done very well. So we only have one item on the agenda, and that's going to be a public reading and public hearing on this resolution. That's an approval resolution for the declaration of disaster that has been issued by me, the mayor. And so I put out two videos, put out the initial declaration on Friday, March the 20th, and the amended one, 20th and 24th. Anyway, in each case, I put a video that you could watch where I very briefly summarize what we're doing and why we're doing it. But let me summarize that one more time. The strategy that we are using in the city of Colleyville. One, I've already stated our goals. Our goals is to ensure our citizens are safe, our first responders are safe under any conditions that could arise that we could see ourselves in. The other thing, we are very concerned, and we'll be doing everything that we can do to ensure our businesses survive this ordeal to them, because it is a very big impact to our businesses in town. So where businesses can function and operate while maintaining the safety requirements that I just talked about as priority number one, we are doing everything we can to allow that and support that. So the strategy also, as I've said, we operate on the premise that we, the city of Colleyville, are going to follow any of the guidelines and declarations of the President of the United States. We will follow the recommendations as put out by the CDC, and we will follow any executive orders that the governor of the state of Texas puts forth. So I issued the initial declaration of disaster at 11:59 p.m. March the 20th. That was last Friday, and I did that because that is exactly the same time that the governor executive orders were issued. Subsequent to that, and by the way, there's been many conference calls ongoing with the mayors of the city in Tarrant County and the judge of Tarrant County talking about this. It's been a nearly daily event. We've also had conference calls with the Governor Abbott, so that we are trying to coordinate our activities, understand any differences there may or differences or viewpoints to ensure we're being as consistent as possible. Judge Whitley issued an amendment of the Tarrant County disaster, actually the second amendment, which was made effective at 11:59 March the 24th. I issued an amendment to our City of Colleyville declaration of disaster at exactly the same time. And so for all intents and purposes, we are consistent with one another. There may be some slight nuances. Ours is a separate document from theirs, but the intent of what we're trying to accomplish is in fact the same. And so this resolution is calling, the mayor can issue a declaration of disaster for a period up to 7 days. So I initially issued the declaration last Friday, so tomorrow will be the end of that 7 days. I can issue amendments to those, which I have done once. So that's why we're having the special meeting. The city council, the full body of elected officials must be on board and kind of ratify, if you will. That word is not formally used, but that's basically what's happening. Ratify that disaster to allow it to go on more than the 7 days. So this is a standard process that all cities and counties are in the process of doing. And so today we're meeting to do this for the city of Colleyville. So with that, let me read the resolution. We'll have our discussion. We'll have a public hearing, and we'll proceed. So this should not be a very long meeting. So this is Resolution R-20-4487, a resolution extending the authority of the mayor to promulgate the declaration of disaster and proclamation of emergency regulations and any changes as necessary or required by the declarations of the governor of Texas. Whereas December 2019, a novel coronavirus, now designated COVID-19, was detected in Wuhan City, Hubei Province, China, with symptoms including fever, cough, shortness of breath, and with outcomes ranging from mild to severe illness and in some cases death. Whereas a succession of events occurred to cause the World Health Organization Director General to declare the outbreak of COVID-19 as a public health emergency of international concern, and the recommendation of aggressive preparedness and activation of emergency plan to aggressively change the trajectory of this epidemic, and then a declaration of COVID-19 as a worldwide pandemic. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is closely monitoring the growing number of cases that have spread into the United States and the identification of community spread cases of COVID-19 in the United States signals that transmission of the virus is occurring, spreading between people who are in close contact with one another through respiratory droplets produced when an affected person coughs or sneezes, and the continued worldwide spread of COVID-19 presents an imminent threat of worldwide illness which requires emergency action. And whereas on March 13, 2020, President Donald Trump declared a state of national emergency for the United States of America, Governor Greg Abbott issued a state of disaster for all Texas counties for COVID-19, and County Judge Glenn Whitley issued a declaration of disaster due to public health emergency for Tarrant County for COVID-19. And whereas the Town and County Commissioners issued a renewal of declaration of local disaster due to public health emergency on March 17, 2020, and whereas Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order on March 19, 2020, further clarifying additional measures for public gathering and business operations within the state of Texas. And whereas the county judge issued the first amended declaration of local disaster due to public health emergency to implement additional measures to ensure the protection of the residents of Tarrant County, and whereas the city of Colleyville has enacted the city's emergency management plan and coronavirus response plan, and whereas pursuant to the Texas Disaster Act of 1975, the mayor is designated as the emergency management director of the city of Colleyville and may exercise the powers granted to the governor on an appropriate local scale, and whereas pursuant to the authority granted to the mayor under the Texas Disaster Act of 1975 and Section 3.06 of the City of Colleyville Charter, which provides that in a time of emergency, the mayor may govern the city by proclamation and maintain order and enforce all laws. And whereas Mayor Richard Newton determined that extraordinary and immediate measures were necessary to respond quickly to prevent and alleviate the suffering of people exposed to and those infected with the virus, as well as those that could potentially be infected or impacted by COVID-19, and therefore signed a declaration of disaster and proclamation of emergency regulations on March 20, 2020, and a first amended declaration of disaster and proclamation of emergency regulations on March 24, 2020, which, among other things, declared all rules and regulations that may inhibit or prevent prompt response to this threat suspended for the duration of the incident. And whereas pursuant to Section 418.108A of the Texas Government's Code, the mayor's first amended declaration dated March 24, 2020, will not continue for more than 7 days unless the same is extended by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, pursuant to Section 418.108B of the Texas Government Code. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that all matters stated above are found to be true and correct and are incorporated herein by reference as if copied in their entirety. Section 2, that in order to further the general health, safety, and welfare of the community, the first amended declaration of disaster and public health emergency proclaimed for the city of Colleyville by the mayor on March 24, 2020, herein below the declaration, shall continue until terminated by order of the city council. Such extension shall apply to any enforcement or revision of the declaration necessary to comply with the applicable orders, rules, regulations, and limitations issued by the state of Texas or other entities governing the coronavirus disease 2019 public health emergency as applicable to the city of Colleyville. Section 3, that the declaration will continue until terminated by official action of the mayor or city council unless sooner terminated by operation of applicable law. The mayor shall be responsible for administering the declaration, including making all necessary modifications thereto until the declaration is terminated. Administration of the declaration shall include continual review thereof on a weekly basis. Section 4, that the city's emergency management plan and coronavirus response plan shall continue to be implemented. Section 5, that any violation of the orders, rules, regulations, or directives adopted pursuant to the declaration or city's emergency management plan shall be subject to the enforcement and penalty provision set forth therein, and it is so resolved. So that is the resolution. It's fairly straightforward, simply to kind of ratify and allow the extension of the declaration. I do want to say to our citizens, we have a fantastic citizens in Colleyville, and they all of you have done an outstanding job in responding to this situation and following all the social distancing. I observe I'm out and about town doing the things I need to do to go to the store and whatnot, and I'm very pleased with how much people are responding to this and being very careful. And actually, that's part of each of our personal responsibilities to do that. But I'm also very heartwarming to see how much people care about others and offer assistance and provide things that they can to other people and to the city and to the first responders. It's just fantastic. And so I always say this and always will. We're very blessed to have a wonderful citizen and a wonderful city here. So so that's the resolution. We'll discuss it as we always do, and then we'll have a public hearing and take a vote. Any comments?
Yes, Mayor, I have some comments, and I do agree with what you just said about the amazing citizens that we have, and we care very deeply for them. But I wanted to address this as I will be voting no to extend the authority of the mayor to promote the declaration of disaster and proclamation of emergency regulations, and any changes as necessary required by the declarations of the governor of Texas. I've thought long and hard. I do not take the threat of the Wuhan Chinese COVID-19 virus lightly, but cannot support the actions taken by the state of Texas and our city to confine our citizens to their homes on the possible threat of arrest or fine. We have a personal responsibility to each other to behave responsibly in dealing with the virus, but these governmental actions are extreme, in my opinion, and unconstitutional. We have been driven to this place by fear, hysteria, and panic. Neither President Trump or Governor Abbott has called for a shelter-in-place order, and criminalizing our ability to come and go from our homes freely, as well as our First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, is a step too far, in my opinion. As Americans, we should not allow our lives to be dictated by fear, nor should we allow our basic rights to be restricted or denied by politicians, even in times of national emergency. COVID is a very serious disease, and we all need to practice common sense and good hygiene. Survival from the virus is 99.9%. I believe that isolation and protection should be mandatory for the vulnerable patient population, but there has to be a delicate balance between protecting the citizens and protecting the businesses and the livelihood of thousands of people. Here's a quote from Daniel Horowitz, senior editor of the Conservative Review. What would be the value added for locking down all Americans rather than allowing most healthy Americans in most parts of the country to go back to work by next week with proper precautionary measures? Where is there evidence that given the virus has already been in the country for months, further lockdown will save more lives and that the economic depression won't cost more lives? In order to answer those questions, we need more information on how we got here. So before I vote to have it extended, I feel that we have to have more evidence than we do as to not ruin our economy to the point where there is no turning back. Do I take this serious? Absolutely. So let me once again reiterate that I care very much for each and every citizen of Colleyville and want to harm them in no way. I think social distancing, clean hands, all of the things that, excuse me, my phone is ringing, that we are doing need to be done, but I will not vote to extend this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I do want to point out a couple of things. I think it's very important that all of our citizens actually read the declaration where it points out what the requirements are and what's being imposed. I've had comments from a former city council member who called me yesterday, and I know the city manager has an email from a citizen that said, hey, I can't get through all the whereases. Very true. It's it's a government document. I mean, it's a resolution. I mean, it's an order. And so we placed at the back in Exhibit A table to try to make it simple. Hey, here are the categories. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do, to make it simple. And that was both of their question. And so hopefully by today we will have put a link directly to either that table or another table that's simplified so you can look at one page, hopefully one page, no more than 2 pages, and understand what the declaration says. So I understand the frustration in trying to read that thing. All the information is there, but it has to be done that way because it's an official document. But we will give you access to something that's a lot easier to read and understand, and so that will be done. We think that'll be done today?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
So I just want to ask a question. The way that this reads, this will be reevaluated every week. And I know that's what's happening across the state. It's being reevaluated every week on a daily basis, really. But I just want to understand, and so that we can speak to everybody, what's our kind of
Yeah,
go-forward
so
plan?
let me just describe this, what goes on daily around here. So normally the mayor's not in the office all the time, but guess what? I've been in the office every day since this started, and basically we're running an emergency operations center. That's conference room down at the south end of the building. Mark Wood, Adrian Lothry, Jerry Ducase, all the city management team, and me, city secretary many times, the chief of police, fire chief many times are in and out. We're talking about this constantly. We have many telephone conferences with other mayors and county representatives, and not just the elected officials, but also the leading health officials. So daily updating one another on what's going on and discussing, are we doing okay or not, or any changes that need to be made. So I'm just trying to reassure everybody that this is constant, nearly a 24-hour-a-day activity. And we got a great team. I can tell you there is no greater team, period. Doing a great job. And so what it says is reevaluating. So, you know, the next questions, and by the way, we will get through this. We will survive this. And no question in my mind about that. The question becomes, when do we start backing off? When do we take it away? And so that reference is, we will be talking about that, looking at that. I'm a very data-driven guy, as you know, so I'm going to be looking for the rationales and the reasons upon which I make my decision, and upon which I would explain to everybody why a decision was made. And so I'm always looking for that. That's part of what we share on these conference calls, the information and data, the new data that's coming in. And so that's, you know, that's not necessarily going to be an easy decision. There's many opinions, as we just experienced, on what should we do or should we do it. And there's going to be many opinions on when we start backing off. When do we do it? How do we back off? Et cetera. And so as I tried to say in my summary comments, we're very sensitive. Number one priority, safety. Number two, the economy, you know, and many people are also concerned about that. How do we keep the economy going and alive, and how we would like the economy to recover quickly. So we will be doing as much as we possibly can to help our local economy and our local businesses survive and then thrive. And so, you know, we've already done simple thing like the $35 gift card. There will be more of those. There's some other ideas we've talked about. We may very well do even larger things in the near future. We'll be talking about those if we want to do that with City Council. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I just want to
Okay.
make sure that we're having that publicly, that discussion publicly.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to address two things based on what you
Sure.
just said, and one thing that Councilmember Nakamura said, which is one thing that I've been hearing regularly, is that the economic crisis is not going to be resolved until the health crisis is resolved. And so for me, that's fundamental in passing this type of resolution for our community. But the second thing is the $35 gift card that we've given to everybody. I'd love to just, I know we talked about it briefly when we decided to do it, but just remind people where those funds are coming from. We're not raising taxes to give
Right.
that money to our community. Just kind of refresh
Yeah,
everybody's
so,
memory.
in fact, I get asked that question a good bit, and so those funds are economic development funds that we currently have. And so what we're talking about, if you haven't seen one, I hope you have, we sent this to every postal patron in the city. This is a $35 gift card. Where the economic development funds came from, our tax increment financing fund, which is specifically for economic development. You know, we did this last year with a $10 gift card, and we chose to up that in this particular case to really get people's attention. And we are trying to infuse money into the business. And so we've given this out to everybody. Please use them. We would love to see 100% participation on this. I think, so we're driving that. We're happy for you to have one. And many people, what's great about this community, many people walk into, order something from a restaurant or a store and pay for it and then hand them the card. Now, that means they get the $35 because what the businesses will do is gather these up and then send them to the city, and we will send them a check for however many of these they have.
Mayor, you might also want to let people know, now that that City Hall's closed, how they get it done, because I've had that asked many times. Well, do I have to wait till the city opens back up in order to get my check? So,
No, it can be sent in. Do you want to speak to that?
Yes, we're actually providing contact information at 817-503-1111. Christine Johnson is administering it. What we're actually going to do is we're going to have residents, if they encounter a business that does not take the cards, they can turn it in and be paid directly from the city, or businesses can turn them in. The businesses have been encouraged to wait until key moments when we do this. We're talking about twice, once in the middle of the month, once at the end of the month. But residents, once we get deeper into April, because it's really an April program, we're going to have a weekly opportunity to come in and cash in the cards and receive payment.
Yeah.
And so we'll have that information on our website. Christine Johnson has already been in contact with a small group of businesses and residents who have inquired, and we're setting that up as we speak.
I probably should mention, I sent a letter out to all the citizens in town, I think it hit maybe last Monday, describing to you what our virus response plan is. And of course, in that letter, we told you that all the city buildings are closed to the public. Our employees are still working, and the senior center is closed. So what I wanted to point out, we put in what the senior center staff is doing right now is being a resource for our seniors. We have a telephone company, a telephone number that they can call, or you can call for them if they or you are aware of any senior has any kind of need whatsoever. We want to hear about it, and we will respond to that need. We do that in general also, but particularly we're sensitive to the seniors because most of us have family here. Some don't have family here, so we're very sensitive to anyone that may be somewhat isolated or unable to get out and about, and they need help doing that. We will ensure that happens. So, what's that number?
Well, just a real quick note on the additional measures.
Yeah.
We're also providing for a daily disinfecting of all of the parks equipment. And so you may see our crews out there spraying those down on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And also, we received
In gear. So
In
I've had
gear,
people,
so
they've
looks a
seen
little
people out there in
strange.
gear and they say, "What's going on?" Well, it's that.
Absolutely. We also received an excellent suggestion from Councilmember Kelly that we are beginning the process to work on today, which is a program by which we try to connect the public information on TAD related to senior exemptions on the property tax rolls with residents in town so that we can extend contact to those residents and make sure that they're doing fine, there's nothing that they need from the city or that we can provide them, and obviously the senior center be a resource.
Yeah.
And so all of these wonderful ideas that keep coming in are things that we're working on a daily basis. And I'm sorry, Adrian?
No, I was just going to give you the phone number you were looking for. It's 817-503-1195 to connect to the senior center if anybody needs any assistance.
Yeah. And in reality, there's many things like the things that we're mentioning as examples that are happening and going on. I didn't prepare to go through all of them, but there are many of them. My phone number, my cell phone number is published, city manager's is published. You can call either one of us anytime, and we mean that sincerely. Anytime is fine. And if you can't get us, we'll call you back, because we want to hear whatever your concern is, or if there's something needs to be done to try to help with that. I do want to say, after the last declaration amendments were put out there, one thing that the mayors and city judge talked about on our conference call was nobody intended to do shelter in place like Dallas city and Dallas County is doing. They are very restrictive. We are not that restrictive. We all agreed we are not going to use the words shelter in place. So if you listen to my video and others speak about it, then what we say is stay home, work safe. And the reason for that, there's many things, many places of business open, you're gonna be out and about going there. Our parks are open. We recognize you're cooped up in your house. You need to get out, so they're open. As we were just talking about, we take care of the playground equipment. Our playground equipment is not closed. Some cities have done that. We have not closed that, as we want to make those available to you. We just ask, please observe social distancing. And I've seen many people out and about, which has been good weather. It's getting hot now. It's going to turn into summer pretty soon. So the reason I wanted to point that out, because when the first day after that was news conferences were held to announce the Tarrant County executive order in Fort Worth, the news media only used the word shelter in place. They did not describe that. That's not what all of us are doing. We're using different terminology. And so I think the reason they did that, they had just been through the Dallas County and City of Dallas, and that's what they actually did, and so that's the terminology that they used. You will not ever hear me use that, and you really haven't heard the county judge use those terms either. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Mayor, I've had a couple questions. So the lawn mowing guys are not going to get a citation. I've had numerous people ask me that,
No,
correct?
They're free to do business.
Okay.
Yeah, so, in reality,
I'd like to say something.
Sure, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is that Mayor Pro Tem?
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mayor Pro Tem Bob. Just wanted to say that I want to appreciate everybody that has reached out to us. I've gotten emails, calls, texts, and I want everybody to know we see both sides of the venue. We see people that are eager, want to get out, just like Ms. Nakamura said. And I'm a business owner myself, and I feel your struggle, and it's very difficult. And then I know that there's a lot of people that are really scared about this virus that's going on right now, and we feel compassion for that as well. And what we're doing is the best we can to try to meet the two in the middle, to be the safest and still keep people going. And I just don't want people to think that we just throw caution to the wind, or we throw this to the wind. We are actually doing due diligence every day. These guys are on the phone every day. They have made a video conference or a Skype or this or that. And so we don't take this lightly. We don't take it for granted. If anybody has any questions, because I know there's a lot of questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because that's what we're here for. That's why you put us in this position, and we appreciate that opportunity. But we want you to feel comfortable to be able to reach out to us, and we'll try to answer those questions the best we can. We're all brand new to this, but we're trying our best to do what's right.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, this is George.
Yes, George.
A couple of statements I'd like to make, and a couple of questions.
Okay.
It's very obvious that we have a lack of testing tools, testing materials.
Correct.
And that lack of testing materials, do we have a good idea how much that's increasing in Texas?
Yes, actually, just before I walked in here, Governor Abbott had a news conference, and so he was reviewing some of that. So I tried to make some notes, and regarding testing, he pointed out that, he's been saying we are going to ramp up testing quite dramatically. And so as of last Friday, there was actually 2,365 tests that had been done. As of today, there is over 21,000 tests that have been done. And so that is continuing to ramp up, and it's going to ramp up very quickly. There's more locations being put in place. I do want to remind people that there is still a priority of testing. First responders are a priority, over 65s are a priority. Of course, you have to have symptoms, even though over 65. If you have symptoms and there's a criteria that you meet, then you can get testing. There are some drive-up testing locations, not in Colleyville right now, in other places. People just can't drive up and get tested. There's going to be criteria applied, but the governor is doing, and everybody's doing a good job of getting testing ramped up. Now, with that comes, the more testing that's done, clearly, you're gonna have more positives. And so expect it, that's gonna happen. That's more data actually to us, so we all want that data to give us information on how we respond. Less than, he said, less than 10% of the tests are positive. And so, you know, that's good news too. Also,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, what I was referring to, or what I'm concerned about, and I, like you, am an analytic guy, and I focus on data and analysis.
Yeah.
And currently, you know, we have 100 cases in Tarrant County as of today, or that's the last number I saw.
Right.
And we have, they record, I think, three people that have recovered or no longer
Right.
test positive. It seems to me like that's has to be extremely low, because either that or we've only been taking records for the last week. I don't know which
Yeah.
is true.
Well, I'm glad you
But
pointed.
clearly,
I'm glad you pointed that out, George, because in fact, me and Jerry and Mark and Adrian talk about this. You know, we've been at it, and it seems like a month, but it's only been a few days or a week, and so that's exactly what's happening, George. If you look at the statistics of other countries, like China is down the downside. It was a kind of a 3-month period to get through the hump, and on the downside, if you look at the statistics, at least, you know, at any point in time, at least half of the people that were positive at any one time were more than half, closer to 60%, were recovered. And so there is a fairly quick recovery cycle. And we really don't, you know, I think it's, since we're just now getting data from testing, and anytime you see a positive, that means that was a test result. And so, you know, the period of illness or incubation is somewhere around 10 days or so. So, you know, when you start getting past that, I think you'll see a lot increase in how many recoveries that we've seen.
yeah. And the other thing I was going to go ahead and say is, it seems to me like we do need to figure out when we can stop this, because I'm concerned, like everybody else, that we're going to go into a depression that, you know, we can't get out of. And I know that the city will do everything we can, but I'm also concerned about the country. Right now, it looks like New York is in a deep spiral, and I also have a feeling that this virus has been in the United States far longer than we know.
Yeah.
And that also concerns me, that I just hope we're not making decisions here on the fly that we can't get out of and, you know, can't recover from. So you know, I'm going to support this, but I also want us to be figuring out as soon as we can how we can hopefully slack off of this and let our people get back to work. And I know they're working remotely, but in some cases, of course, you can't repair your car with remotely. A lot of other things you can't do either. So again, I support this, but I also we need testing, so that we can figure out you know, what really is happening, how many people are really getting sick, how many people are really dying, which may also be another issue, that there may be a lot of deaths that were called flu that were not the COVID-19.
Yeah, George, and
So
the point you're making about testing, Governor Abbott feels exactly the same way. In fact, the goal, as he states, the goal is to test as many people as possible. So that's why he is putting a lot of energy into ramping up the tests. I think we're all in agreement on that. We need the data to see what happens. Back to the economic piece, I did listen to a webinar last night. There were involved a couple of MDs and some financial people of some sites that I have access to, and they were talking about looking at all the data, and they were assessing risk, and both the virus risk and economic risk, et cetera. And one thing they said that kind of stuck out to me that I was glad to hear, they were speaking to the question you were talking about, George. At what point, from an economic standpoint, do you kind of fall over the edge? And they felt comfortable that if we get through this in like a 3-month time frame, their economy will recover reasonably fast. And so, you know, that's really all unknown, but we got smart people looking at it, just like you are, to try to figure it out. But that's what we have to do, because I'm in agreement. We have to know when to come out, and we have to have reasons and rationale for why we're doing it and how we're going to go about doing it.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't claim to be any kind of expert. I'm just have a strong feeling that without data, we're to a fair extent flying blind. So
Yeah.
we just have to depend on the experts, and I'm willing to do that for this situation.
One thing.
And by the way, I'm also talking to people like Mayor Pro Tem said. People are talking to me every day, and I've also referred a few people who have said they didn't get the cards.
Good.
To also call, and hopefully they're doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we want them to have them.
One if they didn't. Yep.
Yeah,
I understand.
absolutely.
We got to get them to our businesses, absolutely.
Yes.
And hopefully 100% will do that.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just going to say, just before we came on, the governor was coming on, and he was talking about travel restrictions between Louisiana and New York. So I was kind of just referring back to George's, Councilman Dodson's comment about New York. So, and I agree with you. Honestly, I feel like we might need to, meet every, 4 or 5 days or so until this. That way it's shorter period. I know it's a little more of an inconvenience, but it's important. And I just think that more, with a little more meetings, with that way the public can watch what's going on.
Yeah.
We can kind of figure it out tiptoe, because I'm ready to get back too, honestly, but I'm also ready to be safe. I always err to the side of caution.
Yeah.
It's just who I am, my nature. And so, anyways, and also I had a question. Are we going to go through this resolution to show, because I thought the thing that you had, was very good. That, oh gosh, I thought it went off the computer screen. The public hearing disaster restrictions. I think that's good to show the public as well.
Do you mean the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
The presentation, yeah. I was going to ask the same question.
Okay,
Are we going to cover that?
we can certainly do that. Yes.
I think
Mayor?
it is. I think because it might clarify a lot of questions out there that the public has.
Yeah,
It's
we'll do that. That's the
well,
table, yeah, this is basically the table in Exhibit A I was referring to.
The other thing I'd like to have you guys address just a little bit more is why we have a separate emergency management process and system as opposed to Tarrant County.
Yeah, so it's a structural, so let me talk about that, and then we'll go over this table that summarizes what's actually in the declaration. And thank you for pointing that out, Bobby. So each city, each government entity must have an emergency management plan. And so cities, which are independent and home rule cities like we are, independent entities, have the choice. They can have their own emergency response plan, or if they so choose, they could join the county and be part of the county's emergency response plan. And so for years, this is not a recent decision, not a week ago, not 2 weeks ago, not a month, not a year. Cities made that choice and proceeded, and cities can always change, but City of Colleyville has always maintained their own emergency management plan. And there's approximately 9 or 10 cities in Tarrant County that do that. So we're one, and so we maintain our own. We coordinate very closely with the county, and actually I talked to the other mayors about it also. So it's a structural thing that's not new. This has been in existence. It's just something that people never talk about it because you haven't ever exercised it. Well, we're exercising it now, so that's the point of difference. And so that's the reason.
Yeah, just wanted to point out that we keep in close contact with Judge Whitley and the Tarrant County Health Departments, and that none of what we do is in opposition or defiance of anything that Judge Whitley puts out. We work very closely with him, and it's a coordinated effort.
Yeah, so we all of us, every elected official in this county or state or country is working to the same objective. You know, that's that number one priority, safety objective, period. So what you're seeing on the screen is actually the table that is shown as Exhibit A in the declaration. That's the one I meant earlier. It's at the back of the declaration, so you don't, unless you know to go back there, you don't get there because people get tired of reading probably. But this summarizes, and it was put there to be a kind of a simple summary of what's in the declaration. And so let me go through that. The first one, locations. All gatherings without regard to purpose unless identified herein below. And the restrictions are no gatherings allowed except those comprised of family members, providing that no more than 10 family members are gathered at one time. That one is there, that one is everywhere, and the reason is that one of Governor Abbott's executive orders has that, and it includes social gatherings. And so no matter whose disaster declaration you look at, that's going to be there. Outdoor activities in public spaces, walking, biking, running, golf courses, and driving ranges, utilizing parks, etc. Outdoor, open spaces, that's allowed. Social distancing is required. So our parks are open. Multiple families utilizing outdoor spaces does not constitute a gathering. You have to follow social distancing, though. So what's the difference? This is outside. All businesses except essential businesses have no public occupancy, minimum basic operation allowed, social distancing required. What that means is, and there's a table of what's essential business and what's not, but if it's not an essential business, the business can still operate. People that work in the business, they can still be inside that building. They just can't, normally businesses, public can come and go at will. That's what difference. There are times where some businesses that can still operate, they can still sell things. They may sell things online or remotely, which everybody's getting pretty good about. They can still do that. They can still, somebody orders something, they can deliver it to them or give it to them when they come up. So that's an important distinction. The next one, entertainment and retail. So bars, lounges, taverns, indoor commercial amusement, and that's the indoor commercial amusement establishments, bingo halls, theaters, gyms, private clubs, meeting places, clubhouses, event centers, hotel meeting spaces and ballrooms, outdoor markets, malls, retail stores that do not sell essential household goods. No public occupancy permitted, minimum basic operation allowed, social distancing required. That's kind of what I just described. Some of the things that are on that list we actually don't have in our town, but you know, county includes those. We include those for completeness. Some of them we do. Could you scroll up? Okay, hands-on services. Hair and nail and barbershops, estheticians and related personal care business, spas and massage parlors, tattoo and piercing parlors, and tanning salons, dog grooming, things where you're actually, that business involves massages, you're putting hands on people. No public occupancy, minimum basic operations allowed, social distancing required. You cannot do the hands-on things. And so, food and restaurants.
Dog grooming.
Yes, George?
Mayor, the dog grooming one was, I found, kind of out of place.
Yeah. How so, George?
Well, it says no hands-on. there's no hands-on with the dog and the people.
Well, the thought, I think, there is one that ended up getting there is dogs. You know, the virus, you know, people call for things. The virus, you've heard medical people talk about, it gets on surfaces. And
Okay.
so it gets on
it's
clothes
the
and
dog.
hairs,
Okay,
and so
I
you're
understand.
grooming the dog that has fur that it possibly could be on.
Okay.
That's
Thank
one.
you.
Food and restaurants establishment, I think everybody's pretty well versed in this one. No, in-house dining is closed. Can't eat in-house, but you can do drive-in, you can do drive-through, you can do takeout, including counter takeout, as long as you order ahead. And delivery is permitted, social distancing required. I think our people are very used to that one. We all do it every day practically, I think. Worship services. Buildings are closed for in-person group services. Staff can be in the building like businesses to run the facility, to run their operations. There's many things they must do. They're doing a lot of transmission services, and so they got audio, video to do. They can do one-on-one appointments. You know, if you need to go in and talk to your clergy, you can, you know, you can do that. We just can't have group services inside. Now, I had a conference call, and Jerry was on it with our Ministerial Alliance yesterday. Had about 20 or so people on the call. It's a great call. So we talked to all the pastors and staff in our churches here about these things. I think they're all being very innovative. I thought the Catholic Church is quite innovative. They are having transmitting services out of the facility. People could drive up in the parking lot, sit in their cars. In fact, Adrian goes to that church, sit in their cars and listen to the service. They can also line up and have drive-through where under the porte-cochere they can speak to the pastor or have prayer or whatever. So everybody's doing a great job of figuring out how they still continue to do the things they need to do. And by the way, we're very sensitive to worship services. The spiritual aspects of life, especially in crises such as this, is critical to everyone. Very important. And is there another page, Mark? Essential businesses. I'm not going to read all this. My point, essential businesses allowed to remain open, social distancing required. You've seen this too. If you look at this list, there's actually few businesses that are not essential. So that's what I was meaning. So Tammy, you commented on shelter in place. There's many, many reasons people get out and about. Even driving to the park's fine. Even get out in the sunshine in your car is fine. So I think if you go to Lowe's, you know, any medical facility, of course, daycare facilities are open, nonprofit service providers, et cetera, et cetera. If anybody has any questions about this, we can talk about it, but I don't want to try to read that whole thing. Any questions? Okay.
I would just add, I think,
Callie, go ahead.
I had a question, Article 1, Section 5, that this declaration authorizes the city to commander any private property temporarily acquired by lease or other means. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that?
Yes, so that's put in there, so that is an authorization. All the declarations have that. They have that because under emergency, there's quite a bit of authority by law given to the city governments. And so any declaration you look at is going to have that in there. Absolutely do not expect that will ever need to be done, but it's in there out of necessity. Is that something is, you know, it would have to be a super, super, super worst case scenario for anything like that to happen. So, okay, finishing, I think this is the last page. Nursing homes, retirement, and long-term care facilities. Of course, that's where our elderly are, and there can be no non-essential visitors, so that's prohibited. Essential means you're providing some kind of critical assistance or for end-of-life visitation. I think that's fairly straightforward. Funeral services, this is the toughie. Funeral and weddings are toughie. That gets a lot of conversation. They're allowed to be done, but no more than 10 individuals allowed to gather indoors. Gatherings of more than 10 people must be outdoors with 6 feet distance between individuals, and you must practice social distancing. So what that means is, there are a lot of services that are done at graveside now, so you're outdoors, so there's some, give some latitude to that. Is that the last page? So that's basically what the table says. I think it's pretty straightforward, but any questions anyone has, welcome to call the city manager or myself. We will get those answered quick as we possibly can. And we do get a lot of calls because there always are questions in special cases. So this shows, if you go to our Colleyville.com website, this is the home page. And where you get to this information is that box that's circled with red. You just click on that, and the information, all the information that we have about COVID comes up. I don't know if you have another page on this or not. That's it. So we wanted to make it easy to get to. So any other thoughts that we need to share from anybody about it?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I'd like to say one thing in closing whenever we wrap that up.
Okay, so Bobby, I'm, the next thing, after, so you decide when you want to say it. All I'm going to do, I think we pointed everything out unless somebody else has a comment like you. The next thing I'll do a public hearing. There's nobody in the room, so that's going to be really short. And then we'll go to the motion. So probably now is a good time.
Okay, well, I just want to say this. I want to echo what you said to begin with, Mayor. Our people have stepped up. Our citizens, our neighbors have stepped up, and they have loved one another. They have dropped the curtains down around them. They dropped party lines down from around them, and they've joined hands to help each other out. It's amazing to watch how much our citizens love each other and how much they appreciate each other. And not only that, I want to say thank you to Jerry and Adrian and Mark and all the staff up there. I'll call in the morning, you guys are doing something with this. I'll call in the afternoon, you're doing something. I'll talk to Jerry at 10 o'clock at night, he's on a call again. And same with you, Mayor. All of us we appreciate it, but you too, you especially, Mayor. You're up there all the time, and you're such a great leader. And I'm gonna fill you ahead with a little bit of boast. Colleyville is just blessed to have a man like you leading this city right now in this time. This is unprecedented. It's brand new to us all, and we're all tiptoeing through this. And the leadership of our staff and you, this council, I am super proud of us. I'm super proud of our neighbors. So I wanted to say that in closing because it's well recognized, and could be more proud. We are Colleyville strong.
Well, thank you so much, Bobby. We all appreciate that. Okay, let me open a public hearing. Public hearing is open. I have no cards, and literally, if you can see the audience, there's no Christine Johnson, City Secretary, sitting out there to show that we're practicing in social distancing, but no one's here. So I have no one to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. I just thought of one other thing I want to say that Governor Abbott said. So I have heard questions and concerns about we're hospital capacity. We're going to run out of capacity. Today, there's 100 patients in hospitals that have COVID-19, and the governor's talking about this. And he's especially been working on this, creating ways to open. He's got done away with legislation that prohibits hospitals that just closed from reopening, and he's allowing medical personnel that had retired or weren't practicing to come back in. Though they're doing that, they now have, right now, 3,000 bed capacity available. So they're tracking that very carefully. They're growing that capacity. They're coming up with pretty innovative ways to do it. So clearly we have plenty of hospital beds right now. He's looking, let's me and Jerry talk about what's ahead. We got to be prepared for any contingency that comes. So he is committed to make that happen, and I really appreciate that. By the way, Dallas, who is hit hard, they have 1,700 beds available right now too, so that's good. So anyway, with that, unless someone else has another comment or thought that hits their mind, we're ready to do a motion and vote.
I'll move to approve Resolution R-20-4487.
I'll
A second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the resolution by Councilmember Kelly, and I think that may have been Councilmember Rigney, is that right, or
Yes.
not?
Yes.
Yes, okay, it's seconds. And so we have a motion and a second to approve. If there's no discussion, we're gonna take this vote manually, since we're all not here to press the button on our computer. So I'm gonna start with Councilmember Nakamura, how you vote?
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood,
Aye.
Councilmember Wheat,
Aye.
the mayor votes aye. Councilmember Dodson,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Rigney.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion passes by a vote to 6-1, therefore the resolution is approved. So I thank you all so much. I thank our citizens for everything you're doing and putting up with this, and we thank you for all that you do and our staff, and just appreciate this town. I really, really do.
Very much.
So
Yes.
if there's no other comments, I'm going to adjourn. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.